Hello and welcome to the Community Difference Plano. We've got a great show for you today. There's a lot of options in where you go to school, right? You don't have to necessarily go to the school district of where you're located. So we want to highlight an awesome school, Faith Lutheran School, right here in Plano, Texas. We'll talk with Pastor Stephen Kieser, also a teacher parent of Faith Lutheran, Miss Christy Rivers. Also, later on the show today is a birth doula, my wonderful wife, Miss Caitlin Smith. Excited for you to hear from her, talk about different options that mothers, expecting mothers, pregnant mothers have for Plano. Great resources, great city, lots of things to offer. And we'll talk about that. All that's next. So please stick around on the Community Difference Plano.
Tune in to watch our communities grow. See how our citizens, local governments, churches, small businesses, schools, and our local sports teams are coming together and partnering to make the difference. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome to the Community Difference, Plano, Texas, with your host, Nathan Smith, and powered by the Difference live stream radio and podcast. So if you love your community and you love supporting the folks and businesses that make your community so special, then we invite you to like, follow, and subscribe to our pages, and then tune into each show to experience the community difference.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Community Difference Plano, Texas. I am your host, Nathan Smith. So glad to have everyone here. It is a unseasonably, I don't want to call it cool, but it's definitely cooler. I think it's like maybe 90 degrees right now at 2 o'clock. It's usually been around 100, 102 at this time. So it might even get into the 60s tonight. So that's pretty exciting. It is a beautiful day outside. So make sure you get some outside time. So much fun stuff to do in the great city of Plano. But we got a lot of stuff going on. This is our last show in June. We've got a big July ahead. We are going to start a process of doing some co-hosting on our show. If you're a small business owner or you have some connections with the school districts or a school or our first responders, police, fire, the city, whatever, any organization, and you want to be a host once a month on one of our weeks of the show, love to reach out to us. You can contact myself. You see my information here at the bottom, or we'll throw up Lynn's information. You'll see that at the very beginning or very end of the show as well. Love to reach out to you, just give you the opportunity for your business, but also to help bring exciting, interesting guests, people that are impacting Plano in many different ways so that we can get them in the public eye and make sure that everybody knows what they do and why they do it and how they're making this a better community each and every day. So a lot of exciting things, as I mentioned, coming up. We want to also take a second to talk about the Community Difference Frisco, right? We've launched the Frisco show with our good friend Brian Podeska, who also hosts the show Real Talk. So he's kind of pulling double duty. They do that show every other week. And so that show is getting off the ground as well. So if you're in the Frisco community, or maybe you live in Plano and you work in Frisco, you're on the border, whatever that looks like, make sure you reach out. I'd love to have you on the show. Any type of connection that you have with the city or what's going on there from economic development, public service, anything in the schools, anything related to that. And obviously small businesses or even major corporations that are in the area. Would love to talk to you, have you on the show, and just kind of get a beat of why you love the city, what you're doing to impact the city, and how we could get that information out to as many people as possible. So again, I hope you're enjoying your day. We got a lot to talk about today. So we're actually going to dive in pretty quickly here. We'll get a chance to share some community events that are coming up at the halfway point. But before we take our commercial break here in about 10 minutes, I want to go ahead and bring on our first guest, or really first guest, I should say. We mentioned in the open that we're going to get to talk to some folks from Faith Lutheran today. And the reason we're doing this, one, is, we have a good relationship with Plano ISD. We've had a couple people on from the school district, and but we want to get a look at some other education opportunities. You've got private schools, you've got charter schools. You obviously have homeschool, you have public school, so a lot of different options. But, when it comes to, as a parent, I'm about 3 years away from having to make that decision. And we're kind of teetering back and forth between homeschool or some sort of private school or charter school. So, excuse me, if you're in that space, in that season where you're trying to figure all that stuff out, it can be kind of daunting, especially with a lot of the changes that are going on in our public schools. Whether it's from a safety standpoint, curriculum standpoint, whatever that looks like, you probably want as many options, excuse me, as you can. And so want to provide that, but also highlight a school that's doing some really cool things. We've started to get to know some folks there and have some connections. And so we're excited to bring on Pastor Steve. I hope I'm saying Kieser. Am I saying that right? So we'll bring in Pastor Steve Kieser here. Steve, how are you doing today?
Hello, good afternoon. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Did I say that?
Nathan?
Absolutely. Did I pronounce it right?
Yeah, I tell people just think old geezer, but with a K, Kieser, and you'll get my name right.
Well, I won't think that. I'll try to get it right regardless, but I appreciate your candor there. And then also, man, I just started getting this coughing fit. I think I swallowed something wrong. Excuse me. And also want to bring on Miss Christy Rivers, who is a teacher at Faith Lutheran, but also a parent. So really an awesome perspective. Miss Christy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. And I want to start out with you, Pastor. And I do this with all of our guests. You know, this is obviously a Plano-focused show. So just talk about Collin County, Plano area. What is it that you like about Plano? Like, what is it that you like about being here? And then we'll talk about how you actually ended up at Faith Lutheran in a moment.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've been, my wife and I, we have 7 children.
Wow, that's awesome.
We've been a part of the Plano community off and on for since, well, I was married. Julie and I were married here in Plano. We're celebrating our 30th this year. We haven't always lived here, though. I was the school principal here, and we lived in Plano from 98 to 2003, and then 2014 to present. So we've had an opportunity to see different aspects of Plano. We've seen back and forth, watched Plano grow. We watched the different restaurants come and go, some of our favorites. One of the things we really like to do, our family every Thanksgiving takes a backpacking trip. And we go outside of Plano, but you can hike a lot of trails here in Plano. You can find great either sidewalk trails if you like to bike, or always walking. The bikers are going past us, and people riding all kinds of things I didn't even know you could exercise on. But it's beautiful. The park system is fabulous here. And we really enjoy that. I think we were even out in, what would that be, West Plano, out past Midway this weekend at a new park I'd never been to. I forget what they call that place, but they had all kinds of little trails and a pond and turtles. And it's just a great place to get outdoors. I don't know too many communities that have the park system, the beautiful park system that Plano has. So that certainly is one of my family's favorites in the Plano area.
Yeah, my wife and I, who will should be on in a moment. We love going to, I think it's Arbor Hills, maybe what you're talking about, out in West Plano, and then there's also Oak Point Nature Preserve, which is just north of where we live in East Plano. And both Arbor Hills probably bigger. I think it's a bigger area. Mm-hmm. But you're right. I mean, sidewalk trails, like actual trails through the forest area. It's a really cool place. Same question to you, Miss Christy, if you don't mind. What how long have you been in Plano? What do you love about the city? What do you love to do? What's your favorite place to eat? Right, that's always my favorite question.
We've been in Plano for 5 years. We moved specifically from Illinois to move to Plano. This is where we wanted to be. I knew Pastor Kieser was going to say that, but same answer, basically. We're very outdoors people. We like to be out kayaking and hiking and fishing and all those things. So my kids love the park system here. And pretty much anything that has a brisket taco and a margarita is my favorite.
Well, there's not a short supply of those places either. So, oh my gosh. Have you been to, you like Velvet Taco?
Yes.
I don't think that's like unique to Plano, but it's one of our favorite places too. That's awesome, and it really is. You know, Plano has so many outdoor trails, but also just swimming pools, like just things to do outdoors, concert venues, like parks, rec. This department is awesome, and so it's really a special place. and we'll share a little bit later, like at the halfway point, some of the events that are coming up. There's literally something to do usually multiple events to do a day. You just have to know where to look. And so it's really been a blessing. The library system is really good. Also, my wife takes them there to library life. Just really great for kids. Well, we'll dive right in, guys. I want to start with you, Pastor. You talk about how you said you were a principal. Were you principal in Plano ISD at a different school before you got to Faith Lutheran?
No, believe it or not, I like Faith Plano so well. I've been here twice.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those very odd things. I was here from 98 to 2003 as the school principal here. And we went to the seminary. I'm what they call a second career pastor. So I'd been teaching for 10 years in various places, 5 years here in Plano. And so then in 2014, I was serving a small congregation in southern Indiana. And I got a phone call, said, hey, would you consider coming back to Plano? I hadn't thought about that. But we had a great experience here. We loved the area. We loved the congregation and the people here. Maybe that's another thing to say about Plano in general. I mean, not only is our local congregation just filled with great people, but just out in the general public, I think there's a lot of friendly folks. And so we decided to move our family back. And we were homeschooling at the time in southern Indiana. And it was a great move for us, not only get back into education, for me to be involved with the school, but also for our family to enjoy all the aspects of the area. So we've been here 2 stints of duty, and wouldn't change it. Love it here.
So you went back to school. So when they asked you to come back, was it immediately in the capacity of headmaster? So you had to go get a seminary degree? Was that kind of the process, or how did you know?
No.
What you wanted to do?
No, I originally went to school to be a high school math and science teacher, and interestingly, I still volunteer to teach algebra. I've taught many of our science classes and math classes here, so it's kind of where I started. Taught in other schools and ended up here in Plano, but also got a degree in school administration from the Chicagoland area prior to going to the seminary. So finished that, and then went back to seminary. And in the Lutheran Church, that's a 4-year experience. So we sold everything, most everything. We kept our beds and some of the clothes we had and some furniture, but mostly we had to downsize, and we moved to a town in Indiana called Fort Wayne, Indiana, to go to the Concordia Theological Seminary. And at that time, I don't think I'd planned on getting back into school administration. But what we found was that there were not too many good options to school our kids. And we were part of some homeschool co-ops. We were trying to do our own thing. Christian education was important to us. My wife's also a school teacher. She's a trained elementary school teacher. And so we were trying to do our own thing at home. But then when this came up, we said, well, this would be a chance to share the love, if you will, serve a broader community. And it's not homeschool, but we see our kids every day. We know exactly what they're doing in school. And so it was just a really good fit for me to come back. I also serve as the congregation's one of the pastors. There are 3 pastors within our congregation. So I do some service within the congregation as well, but my primary duties are with the school, the faculty, and with our families.
Oh, that's very cool.
Where I love to be.
Well, before we're about to be up against our first break here, but I want to ask the same thing to you, Miss Christy. You said you came from Indiana specifically to Plano. What was the reason there? If you can take about 1 minute to answer that, and then kind of how you ended up at Faith Lutheran specifically.
Well, we actually wanted a Lutheran classical high school for our kids. Our kids were in elementary school, and So we researched high schools, and we picked Plano because of Faith Lutheran School. And we love the community, and it was just a really good fit for us all around. So my husband was switching careers, and it was just a good time for us to go. And so we found ourselves here. And I started at Faith as a parent. My kids went to school here. And then when I was teaching for Plano ISD, and then when they needed a teacher for one of my kids' classes, I ended up here. So we really love the school. We really love the community here, and it's just a really good fit.
Well, that's awesome. I'm excited to hear some more about your perspective, because I think it's really neat, like how you ended up here, and then obviously being a teacher and a parent at the same time. So we're going to take our first commercial break, and when we come back, we'll dive in deep to the actual what makes Faith Lutheran unique, some of those things that you were actually looking at when you moved here, Christy, and then also some of the advantages of private school over public school, some things that you guys feel like, and then just what specifically Faith Lutheran has to offer. So we'll take our first commercial break. We'll be right back with all that next.
Tired of that north of the border seasoning? Thinking there's got to be more than just salt and pepper to flavor your steak? Your brother-in-law yapping that he's the grill master? Here's your solution: Goodness Steak Seasoning. It's a blend of 9 unique herbs and spices that'll have your mouth saying, goodness. What was once just for steak night for the family is now being enjoyed by thousands of families across the USA. Grab a bottle or two today at Ham's Meat Market off the square in McKinney, Profound Foods in Fairview, and at bringthetasty.com.
I always want to tout the seasoning there, because I use it on everything, literally. I know my wife's listening. My son broke the bottle, and it was like we lost a member of the family because we used it on everything except for that bottle. So I hope Jason's listening. He's a good friend of mine that we connected in our networking group. So, so let's dive right in here. So first of all, and either one of you can answer this question, because you may have different answers specifically, but in general, what do you feel like are some of the advantages over a private school as opposed to public school? Obviously, generally speaking, they're smaller number of students, which kind of, I would imagine, allows for some intimacy and more specific time with certain students. But even deeper than that, what do you guys believe? Well, we can just start with you, Pastor, and then go to you, Christy, or however you want to do it. Are some advantages there?
Yeah, it's a great question. We get asked that quite often, when families come visit us. I think one of the big differences between our school and a public school is simply that the Holy Bible has free range at our school, and we teach the Word of God as the truth. So that really colors what we believe, teach, and confess. And I think a lot of families seek us out. We are a Lutheran school, and we serve Lutherans within our community, but we really serve all people who are interested in a classical Lutheran education, all people who might be interested in a biblical education, someplace where their children hear the Word of God, where the Word of God is taught as truth, not just simply, another book among many. It is the source of truth. And I think that it's probably, we talk about the title of the show is The Difference. I think that is a big difference. Public school has, sometimes they'll have readings of the Bible, but they have a different set of values that really informs what they do and why they do it. And I think that history has shown, and I think we're living in it right now, just the difference between a school that places the Word of God at its center, our Lord Jesus Christ, Him being the way, the truth, the life, Him being the source of our life together as Christian people, and how that plays itself out in our school day, what we do and what we don't do, what we think is important and what we, would avoid. And so you can get into a lot of different examples, I think, but bottom line, what is the difference? I think it's Jesus is the big difference between us and other schools, especially the public school.
That's a great answer. And I don't know if you can top that, Christy, but
I can't.
if you want to offer another answer that besides, you can't really go above Jesus. So I guess below that, that's also good. If you want to share your experience.
As a teacher, my role is very different here than it is when I taught in a public school. In public school, the teacher is the facilitator. You're given the curriculum. It's very different than what we do here. Here, I'm given a lot more. I'm teaching. I'm instructing. I'm giving. I'm the expert in the room who gives the kids the material, and I have a lot more control over that material and being able to tailor it to the student, right? Because I have much smaller class sizes. So my role as
what is the average class size? If you don't mind? I think people would want to
know. They're about 12, Pastor. Is that correct?
Yeah, the largest our cap is 16, so there won't be any above 16 in a single grade. But the average is about 11 or 12, right?
That's amazing. Wow.
As a parent, it's wonderful because I know all of my kids' friends. I know their parents. I know their cousins. I know their grandparents. So it's a very close community. It's a very welcoming community. We came and felt like we assimilated very quickly. So I think there's a lot of differences here.
Now, I think, and this again, either one of you guys can answer this. I think a lot of parents too would if they're going down the private school route, because most private schools, I know this for a fact, most private schools have usually some religious affiliation with one faith or denomination or another. But so let's say that they happen to like, and I already know the answer to this question because I asked Amy, but let's say they happen to like what you guys are doing, location from an education standpoint, how you teach, but they didn't grow up in the Lutheran faith. Obviously, I know they're still accepted there, but what is that experience like? Is it you become Lutheran or else, or I know that's not really what it is, but how many, I guess a better question is how many people do you have there that aren't necessarily of the Lutheran faith, but just like what you guys are doing from an educational standpoint, and how does that work out for them?
Yeah, we have about half of our student community who are not Lutherans, but even of the half that are, they may be of different congregations around the area, so they're not just from this congregation. We have had pastors of other denominations, or even non-denominational pastors, or I think the term now for some of them is interdenominational.
It changes a lot. I don't know what the
some of them are, they come from a wide variety. What I think is the appeal for a lot of these people is that we all hold to a more conservative or traditional view of the Holy Scriptures. There's a high view, what we might call a high view of the Word of God. And so that tends to be a drawing card, and it has been throughout our history. We started in the early 70s, and that has welcomed in a wide variety of people. But I also think, sometimes Christian schools get a bad rap that, well, they do a lot of talk about Jesus, they do a lot of worship and that kind of thing, but they don't have a very strong academic program, or they don't have a very strong athletic program, or they don't have a very strong fine arts program or foreign language program. And so these are all things we don't think you have to jeopardize those things to be a Christian. As a matter of fact, what better to have people who know Jesus Christ and can confess him from the Scriptures, and also have a very strong academic program, be well-rounded in the arts, music, painting, drawing, all those things, be able to sing, be able to speak in front of other people and be articulate in that way, know about good sportsmanship and how to be on the court and off the court. So we think that that well-roundedness is really important. It's kind of vocation, if you will, for the Christian to be involved in all these things. And we've had, by the way, we have had people who are not Christian at all come to our school. They just know up front that we're going to talk about Jesus a lot, and that they're okay with that. We're going to teach that as the truth here. We had one of our valedictorians not too long ago gave a great valedictorian speech about how he came to school not knowing who Jesus Christ was, but during his speech said, throughout my years here at Faith Lutheran, I came to hear what the Bible said about Jesus, and I believe in him. And so that may happen. I think people who are Christian will have a deeper and well-formed faith by attending our school, but they will also be prepared in this global education, right? Because none of us are going to school just again, with just Plano kids or just Faith Lutheran kids. Everything's global now. Mm-hmm. And so you need to think about that, I think, and we need to remind ourselves of that as we pursue education, that you're really sitting in the classroom with people your age from across the world.
Well, and, the truth of the matter is, it was out of the Christian worldview that sprung the concept of the university and of education and some of the best art that exists. Science came out of a Christian worldview. So it makes sense to not sacrifice that, just to make sure you're kind of insulating yourself. Don't necessarily want to do that either. So to be able to, like I said, to get all of those things and not have to give up any of them is very healing for people. Miss Christie, a question to you. Kind of take your teacher hat off for a second and put your parent hat on if you can. As a parent, what is it about the school that you like that gives you, comfort? If you weren't teaching there, because you obviously see a lot more behind the scenes, or the parent might, just being involved on both sides. But what is it that you like as a parent? This is something that I would want to know, that I see here, that I appreciate, that maybe you would not get in public schools. And just to make sure, we just talked about this in the pre-show, we love, if you're going to be in a public school, Plano ISD is a great school district. But the fact of the matter is, there's some limitations that come from, class size, culture, legislation, just being in the year 2022, that limit a lot of things and push things in a direction that some people just don't want to go. And so that's a big reason why we're having this conversation here. But this is not by any stretch means to demonize public school, because, like I said, we have great relationships with people, and we want to highlight the good things that Plano ISD is doing, which is quite a bit. But
yeah,
there's just
absolutely.
An alternative view and some different options. So I wanted to give that little disclaimer. Didn't want to upset anybody. So as a parent, what do you see? What do you like from that perspective?
Well, we moved here because we wanted a school that taught what we believe and confess to be true. We very much wanted our kids to have peers who were in our faith and who believed what we believe. That was the first and foremost, the most important, was what the school actually teaches and confesses. When we got here, we found that there was so much more than that. That bonus, we have wonderful friends for our kids. The kids here are kind, and our kids have made really great relationships with other kids. I love that my kids can participate in so much. I have a 15-year-old in the high school who does everything. And I know that if she were in a big public school, she would have to pick one thing, right? She would be in music or art or whatever. But here she can do art, she can play cello, she can be in the drama, she's on student council, she can do all the things and kind of get to experience them all. And I think it makes her more well-rounded, that she gets to have such a wide variety of experiences here.
Well, let me interrupt you real quick, because that's one thing that kind of worried me. Because when I grew up in school, and probably the same with you guys, you really did get a good, well-rounded education. And I know that may be the attempt today, depending on where you're going. But I think there's not a really good way to sugarcoat this. We're producing less intelligent people on the whole in our society, which is a problem. I don't know if you guys ever remember watching like this man on the street questionnaires they used to do on the Tonight Show. Ask some very, very common questions that anybody should know that went to school, and just people struggle with that. And that scares me because, and an uneducated population is very manipulated and controllable, and just it doesn't work out well usually. And so I don't see us at this point, on the whole, trending in another direction without having pockets of private schools or charter schools, or just very, very specifically intentional groups of people, educators that are really taking the time to do that, right? To see the value in that. And I think that's certainly a very good thing. So it's very exciting to hear that for sure.
I think a big part of that too is our kids here learn how to use their leisure time. They're not screen dependent. They draw and they read and they write and they play instruments and they play sports, and there's not the same level of screen dependency that I saw at public schools, where the kids are constantly on their phones and things like that. It's just not really part of our culture here. There's so much else to do and to learn and to experience that it becomes kind of on the back burner for a lot of families and kids.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Well, we're going to hit our middle of the show break here. When we come back, I have one more question for you guys, and then we'll wrap it up for your guys' part. Thank you so much. So guys, stick around with Pastor Kieser and Miss Christy Rivers. We'll be right back.
The difference is made possible by the following small businesses.
Real property management focus, an unmatched level of service to property owners, investors, and tenants throughout the DFW Metroplex.
Katie Owen, the insurance gal, helps overwhelmed Medicare-eligible people successfully navigate the enrollment process. When turning 65, retiring, and signing up for Medicare for the first time, it can be confusing. So it's important to get guidance from someone you can trust. Katie helps her clients navigate the enrollment process in a way that eliminates the feeling of being overwhelmed and unsure, and leaves her clients feeling relieved and confident. If you have questions about the Medicare process and want advice from someone you can trust, reach out to Katie at 972-943-3943 or at her website, www.insgal.com.
When you need a trusted roofing company on your side to help you out with storm damage repair for your roof, call Cook DFW Roofing. Serving Anna, Melissa, Princeton, Prosper, Van Alstyne, and all of the DFW area.
Red Branch Realty and owner realtor Ashley Gentry are true champions at every level. As a top producer, Ashley Gentry and Red Branch Realty truly embody their mission of being your supporter and partner in your personal real estate journey. So if finding the best representation possible in achieving the American dream of homeownership is important to you, give Ashley a call at 972-342-1869. WeatherTech General Contracting. We make your home renovation dreams a reality.
And by
Alan Lester, branch manager and team lead for the One Group, a branch of Town Square Mortgage. With over 22 years in the mortgage lending industry, Allen and Town Square Mortgage have many loan program options available, from conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, jumbo, and many investor and self-employed programs. So if you're looking for the best in the business, give Allen a call at 214-681-0234.
For more information about our sponsors and their services, or if you would like information on how you and your business can partner with or sponsor this show, or others like it, just check the show description or comments for the relevant links and contact information. And now back to the show.
Welcome back to the Community Difference Plano. We are here with Pastor Steve Kieser from Faith Lutheran, as well as parent and teacher, Miss Christy Rivers. Guys, again, thank you so much for being on today. Been fantastic so far. One thing that I do want to ask, because obviously, it's a tough topic to talk about, but we talked about this recently with a parent of Plano ISD in light of the school shooting in Uvalde, and looking forward to hearing what Plano has to say. That I found out that they're going to be their school board meeting. I believe the first one in August. I want to say the 7th they will be having an open school board meeting and just kind of addressing a lot of stuff that they're doing and changing and getting feedback from parents and stuff. But I imagine as a private school, you guys have obviously a little more autonomy to take whatever measures you feel necessary to keep your students safe. And so if you don't mind, I'd just like to ask you kind of what are some things you guys have in place, and did anything change or anything added or reviewed in light of what's happened recently in Uvalde, or maybe even as far back as Parkland about 4 or 5 years ago? And where do you guys stand on that?
Yeah, great question. We have a number of years ago, we tried to pool our resources. People who have experience in the community as police officers or security, that kind of a thing. And we actually put together our own security committee to help us not only when all the children are here on campus, faculty and staff are here on campus, but also considering after-school events and community invite events, things of that sort. And we also had we worked with Plano, the Plano Police Department. They have security audits, and they'll come out to your campus and they'll say, okay, these bushes are too high, you need to remove them, or this control lock system, this would be a better way to go. And so we have done a number of security audits over the years with Plano Police Department. We did one recently, and we took their findings, we took their advice, we implemented their advice, simple things that can be done. It's interesting to me that when I started back in the late 90s, a lot of our schools didn't even have controlled entry across the United States, or even here in Plano. I mean, maybe you met a secretary on the way in, but you could pull open the door. We didn't have security cameras running 24/7. We do now. We have controlled entries now. When I was in school, or even when I was started in education, we didn't have lockdown drills. And we about a year and a half, 2 years ago, updated our emergency system within our whole building for fire, severe weather, and also lockdown drill protocols. And then when we do some of those drills recently, this end of last school year, even speaking of that, I think the fire alarm going off right now. How'd you do that?
May I have your attention? May I have your attention?
Or it's actually,
That's so funny.
but we have workers in the building. I bet one of them tripped the alarm, but I'm probably going to have to leave, or the fire department's not going to.
Well, it's pretty good timing because we're about done.
Nevertheless, we are very concerned about it. We all have children in the school. We don't want anyone to be harmed, so it's very important. As you can see, it works.
Hey, that's good. Well, you guys might have to respond to that. So,
Yeah.
well, that's a great stopping point. Thank you
Okay.
so much. We'll definitely want to have you guys back on. Thank you for your time today. And
All
I know that definitely some wonderful things happening at Faith Lutheran. So God bless you guys. Have a great week.
Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Hi. Well, if that wasn't the funniest thing ever. Oh, my goodness. Well, nothing like an actual alarm to tell you when your segment's over with somebody. So that's good to know that it works. That is really, I don't know if that's divine providence or just sheer coincidence, but that was.
I'm gonna have to get one of those alarms so we can do our commercials and
I
everything.
don't know.
like
Yeah,
that.
that's a great time to know in commercial, but especially when we have a guest that's like talking really long. We're just like fire alarm. So
Right.
well, that's awesome. Well, got about 20 minutes left in the show, which is perfect time. I want to bring in my wonderful, lovely wife. I didn't tell you guys that she was my wife, but this is my lovely wife, Caitlin Smith. She is a birth doula, and she this morning before the show, she corrected me that I typed in her title wrong in the promo that we put out yesterday. So, babe, if you can tell me the correct title, so I don't embarrass you or whatever. I don't know.
That's okay. Well, I'm a childbirth educator and birth doula.
Childbirth educator, Amber. Okay, which means
Yes.
she also teaches childbirth education classes. In fact,
Yes.
speaking of distractions, she was trying to teach a remote class last night at our house, and our son was not going to bed, and it was my job to get him to bed, and I was not doing a great job So that was a bit of a distraction. So fortunately, he's asleep right now. So we'll jump right in because, in the child education side, you just finished up a 7-week class, the same class that you and I went through the first time, when you were first pregnant with our son. And I think that probably led you into your pursuit of becoming a doula or just making interest in that. And I want to hear more of how that came about in just a moment. But the same thing I ask everybody, and I think your answers will probably be a little to Pastor Steve and Miss Christie about what do you love about Plano and just being here in the community in the city.
Yeah, well, so I am from Denver, and which as my husband, so I'm going to pretend I'm talking to everybody else because they don't know that. So being from Denver, I can't help but gravitate towards the outdoors, even in the heat of Texas summer. So yeah, I was laughing backstage as they were talking because their answers were very much the same, that there's such an abundance of outdoor parks and nature preserves and trails. And those are things that just bring a lot of comfort and peace to me. And I just love being outdoors. And then you touched on this a little bit, but something else is that I love the library system here and the parks in Plano. As the mom of a little one, of a toddler, there's no shortage of choices of where are we going to go, which park, and it's nice. It's not just the same park every single time, and that keeps my little one interested. So yeah, I would definitely say the outdoors. I'd say the library system's great, and then the park system, park and recreation as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and I can speak to that, even though I don't get to go out into nature as much as I'd like to. You're more naturey than me. So, well, let's dive right in because I want to make sure we get all this in the time we have left. So, before you talk about how you became a doula or what inspired you to become a doula, there's probably a lot of people like myself. Before we hired a doula for our birth, I didn't even know what that word meant, and I'm sure a lot of people don't. So, if you can just give a nice definition of what the heck is a doula.
Yep. So the really simple definition is that, breaking it down in terms of linguistics, doula means servant woman. So it is a woman who serves other women who are pregnant and really who are in labor. Now, there are different types of doulas. There's everything from bereavement doulas. As a birth doula, there are also postpartum doulas. I'm a birth doula or a labor doula. And so my objective is to help moms and families and their partners physically and emotionally. So whereas a midwife or an OB would be very medically based and making sure that mom is medically doing okay and baby is medically doing okay, my focus is on the emotional support to mom in labor, and then physically helping her move her body and continue fighting through contractions, and really supporting her body in a physiological space. So helping her move to help baby come down the birth canal with ease, because moving around is key for a faster, more efficient, and less painful labor. So that's what my focus is, definitely on supporting mom, supporting baby emotionally and physically in labor.
And now, and we learned a lot. I know you learned a lot as well as the pregnant deliverer of our baby, birther of our baby, I guess. Something I will never be able to know. But
Right.
We learned a lot together, and we had probably one of the best doulas in the area.
We did.
My wife aside, no offense, baby. I think you'll even admit that. So I think we learned a lot from her, obviously, but I think that too is what kind of moved you into that space of this is something I feel called to do. So take about 1 or 2 minutes, and then we're going to go to our last break. We'll dive in more deep afterwards. But what is it that led you to kind of going down that path to say, this is what I want to do, this is what I feel called to do?
Yeah, honestly, I think it started before we had a doula, and we did have the best doula in the area, Stacey Hutchins with Birthing Naturally. So I wound up seeing hospital births and really witnessing that pregnant moms were voiceless and were seemingly voiceless, I should say. They do have a voice, but they were not being empowered to share their opinions or voices, they were not necessarily being given the options that are their right. And I saw things being very medically managed, sometimes very unnecessarily. And so in my head, I thought there has to be a better way. There has to be a better option for moms, because so many moms are walking away from their births saying that was traumatic, and they have postpartum depression or postpartum anger, and just carry this trauma around with them until they deal with it. And it will be with them until they deal with it. And so I thought there is more out there and there's a better way. So it kind of started with that. And that is why we chose to have an out of hospital birth with our son. And then as far as becoming a doula, one day it just kind of struck me that, and this was like 18 months after I gave birth, just struck me that that's actually what I'm called to do. And nothing has come more easily to me. So at that point, I focused on becoming a certified doula, which I've done a couple years ago, and then on becoming an educator as well. And my biggest passion, not just moms in labor, which is the doula, because it all starts with education. When moms and their husbands or their partners are informed on what their options are, when they realize that they have all the power within them to birth their baby, even naturally, with no medications and no interventions, that is what can change the landscape to healthier attachment with their children and healthier relationships moving forward. So there's so much in this world that we don't have time to talk about, but so much that bases off of how children are born and what the mom's birth experience is. So giving moms all of those options and informing them is something I'm incredibly passionate about. That's the education piece.
Well, that's awesome. I think I don't know if it's on my end. We're having a little bit of lag. We heard most of that, but we're going to take our last commercial break. When we come back, we've got some specific questions for you, and then we'll wrap up the show. So stick around, guys. We'll be right back.
The difference is made possible by the following small businesses.
Real property management focus. An unmatched level of service to property owners, investors, and tenants throughout the DFW Metroplex.
Katie Owen, the insurance gal, helps overwhelmed Medicare-eligible people successfully navigate the enrollment process. When turning 65, retiring, and signing up for Medicare for the first time, it can be confusing. So it's important to get guidance from someone you can trust. Katie helps her clients navigate the enrollment process in a way that eliminates the feeling of being overwhelmed and unsure and leaves her clients feeling relieved and confident. If you have questions about the Medicare process and want advice from someone you can trust, reach out to Katie at 972-943-3943 or at her website, www.insgal.com.
When you need a trusted roofing company on your side to help you out with storm damage repair for your roof, call Cook DFW Roofing. Serving Anna, Melissa, Princeton, Prosper, Van Alstyne, and all of the DFW area.
Red Branch Realty and owner realtor Ashley Gentry are true champions at every level. As a top producer, Ashley Gentry and Red Branch Realty truly embody their mission of being your supporter and partner in your personal real estate journey. So if finding the best representation possible in achieving the American dream of homeownership is important to you, give Ashley a call at 972-342-1869. WeatherTech General Contracting. We make your home renovation dreams a reality.
And by
Alan Lester, branch manager and team lead for the One Group, a branch of Town Square Mortgage. With over 22 years in the mortgage lending industry, Allen and Town Square Mortgage have many loan program options available from conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, jumbo, and many investor and self-employed programs. So if you're looking for the best in the business, give Allen a call at 214-681-0234.
For more information about our sponsors and their services, or if you would like information on how you and your business can partner with or sponsor this show, or others like it, just check the show description or comments for the relevant links and contact information. And now back to the show.
All righty, guys, welcome back. We're going to skip our event section today just for the sake of time. Check out visitplano.com on the events tab, and you'll get to see everything that's going on in the great city of Plano. So we're here with my beautiful and lovely wife, Caitlin Smith, who is a child. Good gracious, I just totally ruined it. I should know this. What am I doing it? A birth doula and a
childbirth
I almost
educator.
said childhood education. I'm like, that's not right. That's a lot harder.
No,
Childbirth
that's not it.
educator. This is embarrassing. I should know this. So there's a lot of great resources in Plano. Like I mentioned a minute ago, you at the Plano Birth Center, you just finished up a class there. Of course, we really in Collin County in general, but obviously being a Plano-based show, we gave birth to our son at the Allen Birthing Center, and so the Plano Birthing Center. There's a lot of great birthing centers. So talk about some of the resources, birthing centers. Take about a minute or so that you like and you partner with, and you kind of have a good relationship with in Plano.
Yeah. So you hit the first two. So Plano Birthplace with Janine Tate would be the first one. And then the second one would be Allen Birthing Center, which is in Allen, but still Collin County. And there are the beautiful thing about this area, about DFW, which I know is not just Plano and Collin County, it is saturated with birth centers, midwives. There are lots of options for out of hospital births. And just because, we haven't really said this, but you can have a doula in a hospital with a hospital birth. I personally work specifically with families who are who anticipate having a natural or physiological birth without medications and interventions, which means a home birth or a birth center birth. So lots of home birth midwives in this area that serve Collin County, that serve Plano, and then Plano Birthplace and Allen Birthing Center would be my top two picks that I've worked very closely with. And then also Birthing Naturally, as I've already mentioned, offers classes at Allen Birthing Center, and then I teach specifically at Plano Birthplace.
That's awesome. So, when somebody meets with you, and obviously the doula space works a lot like, any other industry, in that it relies a lot on referrals and building relationships and getting to know. So, pretty much every small business that we talk to on the show. And obviously it's certainly a more intimate relationship and I guess I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but it's similar in that capacity, but also very different. And so you're not so much interviewing clients, although you are, but they're also interviewing you to see if there's a good fit, both, what you believe, like you talked about, maybe you only do, or not only, but you typically want to focus on home births or birth center births, like out of the hospital. And there's all kinds of different other things, views that people have on this, that. You're more focused on natural birth, physiological birth, etc. So when you're meeting with clients, what are 2 or 3 things that you want to convey about yourself, but also convey to them in terms of, what they, could ask or should ask or might want to ask, or just kind of things of that nature?
Yeah, so I feel like you answered the question for me, probably because you're my husband and you know me so well. So the most important thing is that regardless of my beliefs specifically, it's really looking for a good fit, and it is a two-way interview. There have been families who have interviewed me, and for whatever reason, it just didn't feel like I was supposed to be present for their birth. And so birth is a very vulnerable, intimate space, as you just relayed. And you need to have the right people there. And so if I were to just try to get as many clients as possible because it's a business, then I'm missing out on truly serving families that need me and only my skills and my heart and passion and my hands to serve them. So making sure that it's a good fit is really the number one. And if somebody does, like if they're interviewing a doula and it feels like that doula is very business based, then it's probably not a good fit, because it's more of a ministry really than a business, because it's all about serving.
Well, we talk a lot about, in Linda and I's networking group, and we've talked about this all on the show, small businesses, try to avoid being transactional. And there couldn't be anything less transactional than birth. And there is probably the most important thing to build a deep relationship, to build that trust.
Definitely.
I mean, you are bringing people through an experience that they may be first-time moms, they may be fifth-time moms, but it's still, a lot of moms that have given birth 4, 5, 6 times and have had a doula every single time, even though, yes, they get more capable, they get more knowledgeable. They obviously, their body is more in tune with the process, but it's still just having that support if they want it or need it. That's very important in that process. And so obviously the husband, the partner comes into play as a huge part of that process, especially, and this is something, that I've learned too, because I didn't know what a doula was, but I couldn't imagine supporting you without a doula. Because if this was 1950s, I would have been in the delivery room with a cigar talking about who won the World Series or something. But it's not, and I'm glad it's not, because it's such an awesome experience for fathers too, being able to support their wives. But we just, we don't know how to do that really, other than trying. But have a doula that is really not equally, but a large portion of her job is to help the father be the support, because as it should hopefully be, that's your first line of defense and your first line of comfort and your first line of intimacy is the person that you created the baby with. So you want them to be there for the part and be that pillar. But sometimes, we just don't know how to do that. So going through those birthing classes, going through those in that moment with her, knowing what to expect, and then, being able to have somebody whisper in your ear, hey, you might want to, you should help her with this or do that. Extremely helpful. And so I wasn't going to ask you that. I just kind of volunteered that as what I've learned, but we've got
that's great,
baby. And so the last thing is, there's a lot of great things. We could talk for 10 hours about all the things that we would change about our healthcare system. There's also some great things about our healthcare system when you compare it to other parts of the world. But we don't have time for that. What we do have is about 2 minutes, and I'd like to kind of share in the birth space, right? Talk about some of the problems that you see in the kind of traditional healthcare system for women, and why they might want to consider, or at least be aware of another alternative or another path.
Yes. So definitely have more than 2 minutes worth to share. So my contact information will be here that you can reach out and we can have a deeper conversation about this. The biggest thing I see, like I said, I witnessed hospital birth that was so fear-based. The several hospital births I've seen have been very fear-based, scaring parents into making decisions that they might not even need to make. There are lots of scare tactics, and everything is very for profit. So, additional interventions, additional surgeries, etc., are money-making events. And yes, there is a time and a place for hospital birth, absolutely, and a time and a place for medical interventions, 100%. But for the most part, it's just so fear-based that it scares moms into making decisions that they might not otherwise need to make. So what can be done on the outside of that is really honing in on mom's intuition, having mom pay attention to her body, pay attention to her baby early in pregnancy, throughout, so that when it comes to time of birth, mom can say, that's not necessary. I'm not going to make a decision about that. Or my decision is a no instead of a yes, and not letting someone own their birth for them. Really empowering them to be responsible for their birth and the outcome they get. Last thing I'll say, I know we're just short on time. The best thing you can do is find a midwife, or if you do desire a hospital birth, find an OB who is completely supportive of your decisions. I have a guide. I can, if someone wants to contact me, I can send out a guide on really deep questions to ask to make sure that you're getting somebody who is aligned with you and very mindful of what is physiological birth versus a very medicalized birth. Research your provider, whoever you choose, a midwife or an OB. Research, ask around, get into local forums to find out really like the nitty-gritty on that provider. Last thing I'll say is get opinionated. There's nobody who cares more about your birth than you. And if you don't have an opinion on something, the decisions will be made for you with the way that our system works these days. So get opinionated, make decisions in advance, and know what your options and what your decisions are to have the very best birth that you desire.
That's awesome. So yeah, you could talk about that for a long time, guys. If you have any questions, make sure you reach out to Caitlin or myself. If you didn't get to write down information, I'd be happy to put you in contact with her. But thank you so much, Babe, for being on the show today. Thank you to Pastor Steve.
Yeah.
Thank you, of course, to Miss Christy and the whole Faith Lutheran community. And guys, I hope that you've got a lot out of today's show. We've got a great July coming up. So God bless you all. Have a great week. Be safe, and we will see you back here same time next Tuesday. Have a blessed afternoon.
Thank you for tuning into The Community Difference. If you enjoyed the show, take something you learned and apply it in your community or your business in order to make the difference for someone else. Remember, the smallest change begins with a single action, but a single action can make all the difference. A special thank you to today's amazing guests. Also, if you'd like to be on the show to share your unique story and how it made the difference in your community, please contact Lendon Wilson at lendonw@thedifferenceradio.com. Until next time, this has been The Community Difference in Plano, Texas, hosted by Nathan Smith.